Hi, I'm Ed Finegold, tech author and contributing analyst at TM Forum Inform. I'm here today with Steve Ruben. He's CEO with NeuroCore Technologies, which is based in Bellevue, Washington, in the US. And NeuroCore specializes in turning AI into ROI. Steve is a master developer and patent holder who's built multiple enterprise scale real time platforms for clients in industries ranging from healthcare and agriculture to telecom, while pioneering bleeding edge technologies like blockchain and AI. Today, Steve has something based on agentic AI to show us. And this is something that NeuroCore has created specifically to overcome the cost and complexity of developing with and applying AI at scale. Steve, when I hear about large businesses like AT&T using 5 billion AI tokens per day, it's pretty easy to see why optimizing which AI models are used per purpose, and whether workloads can be handled better and cheaper locally than in the cloud. That's something very interesting. So let's just talk a little about, what are some of the big challenges you're solving for businesses that are developing and deploying applications with AI?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones is, there's so much AI, right? You have a lot of companies out there. They know about GPT, they know about Claude, but what about the millions of other models, right? Like we literally have access to over 2 million models, right? Between Hugging Face and Olama and Microsoft and Amazon, everybody's got models. And so there's that aspect of it, and then there's the aspect of managing cost and privacy, right? Anytime I go to the cloud, I'm not in control of what's happening kind of on the other side. And then the other, is the cost, right? Excessive use, 5 billion tokens, you're spending, somewhere between 10 and $16 million a year on tokens, right? That's a wild number. And then you look at, what's the price of hardware, right? And how much hardware could a company, buy if I was AT&T, for example, and I just wanted to have my own internal infrastructure. I could cut my costs down exponentially. Or the fact is, I have a lot of people who are out there now on devices like, Microsoft's new rollouts and Mac devices that have Neuro chips involved, right? And so these devices are capable, right? They're able to run some models, and that's actually part of what I'll show off today, right? Is I'm running some local models. This is something that'll run on, basically any modern neuro-enabled laptop that's out there. Your M series devices from Mac and some of your newer Snapdragon Surface devices.
Yeah, and when I've been out at conferences and what have you, I mean, these are the issues, the concerns, the questions, that tend to come up. There's been a lot of focus recently, obviously, on getting the data house in order, and then right behind this is a lot of questions about the right way to architect AI, again, using local models versus the cloud, and obviously just this rapid growth of token consumption and how to manage that from a cost perspective. So let's take a look. I mean, show us what you're working on, and just do us a favor and just walk us through it a little bit so everybody knows what they're seeing.
Sure. So what we've got here is, this is a nice little demo application we put together. And what we're bringing to the table is not just the ability to have cloud, but also local, access to models. And so what I've got here is a local model I'm going to do some work with. And you'll see as I do things that it will occasionally call out to the cloud, right? For some tasks, it'll go to Big Brother, right? And I'll say, hey, I need some help. But it's gonna reduce the amount of tokens I'm using in the cloud and my cost exponentially. We'll get to see that here. You'll also see some cool things that we threw in just to show the possibilities. I'm going to do text to speech and only do a little bit because we don't need to hear the computer talk to us endlessly, but it's entirely local. This is not coming from the cloud. So we'll start off. I'm going to flip that on. I've got some things I wrote up so you don't have to watch me type, and we'll start, getting things going.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the demo. Hope you're all excited to see what we've prepared. Let's get started.
All right, so you can hear a nice clean voice there. That's all entirely local. And what we've got over here is the thought train, right? We can see kind of what's happening as our LLM is coming up with that. And then when we look over here, right, what do we got? We've got all local utilization, right? We'll take it a little further and we'll say, I'll give it another question here. Ninth President of the United States. Right, we get a nice thought chain. It's kind of going through. confirms its answer, and then it'll give us our answer.
Right. So we get some transparency in how the AI is doing what it's doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ninth President of the United States was William Henry Harrison. He served a very short term, as he died just a month after taking office in 1841, making him the first president to die in office.
Right, and that's great, and we don't need to listen to him talk anymore. One thing we can do though is take it a little further. I've got a document that I've attached here. It's a little invoice I got from when I took my pet to the vet. Right, so I say who is the owner of the pet, and what is his or the, let's say what is the pet's name better. Right. So what you'll see is right away it starts thinking. Right, I've attached this document. And what it's going to do in a moment is it's going to reach out to the cloud because one of the instructions we've given in our demo is to say, we don't know how big our attachments might be. And this is our local LLM. So when we have a bigger attachment, we want it to talk to the cloud to do some light processing, right? And there we go. We saw our trigger. It's going to reach out to the cloud. But you'll notice it's pretty brief, right? It doesn't spend a lot of time there, right? And now we're back. We're on our local, and you can see the train of thought continues, right? And here we go. It's got my information. And if we look here, we now have some cloud usage, right? But look at how minimal it is, right? We've just barely anything.
Right. And I could see below that, right? It's 90, about 90-10.
Mhm.
It looks like local, 90% local and 10% cloud roughly.
Right, exactly. And so, based on that, you can really see where there's savings and depending on what the nature of what you're doing, right? I could completely isolate this. I can still get all the benefits of having an LLM and privacy, right? It can address my privacy concerns, and you can get all of the great things you're interested in if you're doing large RAG setups, or this is another great example of being able to fine tune a model, right? And have something that's tuned, locally available, and highly trained on your business objectives.
That makes sense. So I think you had another piece of us you wanted to show us that speaks to that as well, correct?
Right? And so we'll switch gears a little bit. We'll do something,
Mhm.
a little more complicated. And so I'm going to say I'm going to get a marketing template here. And I've, again, written some of these prompts out. I'm
Mhm.
telling it we're going to use SendGrid. So I've made a fictitious widget co, right? And it's just a welcome email. And essentially, it's going to make a template. And it has a link in the template to confirm their email address, right? And so what you can see here is this nice, chain of thought for it going through. And what you can kind of see, and this is what's really nice about having this is it's explaining to you how it's building the template. So if I really didn't know anything about SendGrid templates, right, I just got a nice little lesson over here about how you
Mhm.
use bracket syntax to create parameters and make these things dynamic and such. So here it's going and it's kind of piecing together, and we'll see when it gets through its response here what we end up with. It's creating a nice little email.
But the agent is really assisting you here, is what you're showing.
Exactly, right? And so
Right.
it's showing you, right? It's like here, here's your template language, right? And it's essentially showing you how to inject things, right?
Mm.
Here's the email address that I'm populating in, right? It gives me everything that I could really, need as far as creating and walking through it. And it gives me this nice explanation for how to get through it, right? I can read the train of thought and go through there. Here's another fun one. I'm a developer, right? New things are happening all the time. Want to find out something quickly. And this is a great use case of I have a local model. It's smart, right? But it doesn't know everything because it's
Hmm.
local. And so it's going to go out and you'll see in its train of thought, it understands that I want something newer than what it knows about. And you kind of see that right here. It knows about
Hmm.
9, but it sees that 10 is out there. And it'll go out and do a little cloud research in a minute, right? And it'll say, hey, can you tell me about what's happening in C Sharp 10, right? And we'll get a nice little summary from it about what is going to be available to us in C Sharp 10. And we should see it hit the cloud here in just a minute and go out and see what it can figure out for us. So we'll watch for a second here.
it's doing a lot of thinking, but this is good. I mean, to me, it feels like logging and monitoring everything and giving you a paper trail, so to speak, of what the AI did. So there's no mystery, right? You can
Yep.
log that and go back
No,
to it, I assume. Yeah.
and you have control over that. And see, like right
Mhm.
now, and this is where we're kind of creating this visibility, right? It said, hey, I don't know about, anything in .NET 10, right? C Sharp 10. It
Mhm.
search, and now it's come back, right? And it's giving me a couple of examples, like I asked for, of some .NET code using new syntax that's available, right? And it's great. It's done some research for me, and I've got a nice log of kind of how it got there. And depending on your company's needs, right? You don't have to have these models that do thinking in this way. There's all kinds of different ways to approach this. This is more for a demo, so we can kind of see what's going on inside the mind of our LLM, if you will. Um, but what's really great is if I'm someone who is doing research, or if understanding the train of thought is critical to my business, right? What I can do is, to your point, I can log this, right? And now I can come back and I can do an audit of what's happening from my agent. And I can say, hey, how do I adjust my prompt, right? Because I saw this go wrong, right? Well, I can read through and exactly identify where in the thought it went wrong, provide a better prompt, right? An enhanced prompt that now, when it goes back through and it performs the same task, I've been able to make my LLM better, right? My experience with my LLM better because I've got a better prompt that's addressing the things that were confusing it. And often, right? Often, small changes in a prompt language can go a long way, right? And we've all learned that through time how just a little nuance in how you talk to these things can take you very far.
And yet, even though you're deliberately trying to um, get the agent to spread its wings a little bit, recognize that you're asking it for something that it doesn't have locally, and then it's going out to the cloud, you're still actually at better than a 90-10 split there, where more than 90% has remained local with this approach,
Yeah,
even when you're pushing it to go to the cloud.
exactly. And this is looking at a relatively small model, right, that I'm running locally on a 2-year-old graphics card, right? And so, that's the thing that's really I think, great to think about. And then you start to look at, what's coming out as far as consumer hardware. We have ARM devices with unified memory, which now makes running an 8 or a 10 gig model completely feasible locally, right? And you still have great token throughput. And that device can now do something to contribute to my company's total token cost, right? Or if I need something more centralized, depending on the size of your company, you can get some amazingly powerful GPU that can service a lot of your workloads. Or, lastly, what we all know is there's a world of cloud providers out there. What's their strategy, right? Am I buying token? Am I renting hardware, right? Does it make more sense for me to rent GPU in the cloud, mount my own model, and not have to count tokens, right? Or maybe it makes more sense for you to be a token company, right? It just depends on what you're doing. It depends on what access you want, because what we know is, again, two big models everyone's aware of. 2.1 million models on Hugging Face, hundreds of models available through Olama, all other types of providers that are out there. The world of AI is getting bigger and bigger. We don't have to just choose from the two big names that are out there.
And at the same time, I feel like you're seeing this trend towards the hybridization of the AI models and towards this understanding that there's more that can be used locally, especially if you have infrastructure, and the spread right on the cost per token based on the model. You can have two different models doing basically the same thing, but have an exponential difference in the price per token. And that's something that folks want to obviously both avoid the unnecessary cost and take advantage of any cost advantage that you could get because you're just better able to match function to model with a price and performance consideration in the mix. So Steve, I
100%.
mean, this is fascinating. I think folks who are watching this probably have a lot more questions, and hopefully we can do more in depth in the future. I just want to say, as we wrap up here, if you guys want to read more about Steve and his experiences with AI models, please go ahead and visit NeuroCore's website at neurocoretech.com. Or go ahead and download monetizing the monetizing the AI connectivity opportunity, which is from TM Forum and Forum, authored by yours truly, and it features Steve's expertise as well. Steve, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Ed.